Hey, you know what time it is. Welcome back to another episode of the Make Money and Have Fun show. This show in particular is a testament to the power of consistency and the power of follow-up. Because this guest, I asked him, probably 9-10 months ago to be on my show. And can you believe it? He told me no. I couldn't believe it. But I finally have my good friend Ken McArthur on here today. So I'm so excited to hear what we're going to talk about. So let's get into it.
My motto in life is make money and have fun. I'm on a mission to show everyone how to make money and have fun. I'm all about making money and having fun.
All right, so let's talk about Ken McArthur. Who is Ken McArthur? First of all, if you don't know who Ken McArthur is, you must be like living under a rock or something like that, because Ken McArthur has done so many amazing things in his life. One of the challenges that I'm going through today is that I typically cap these interviews at about an hour, and Ken's life story takes just a little bit longer to go through than that, but let me tell you about some of the things. So Ken McArthur is the best-selling author of Impact, How to Get Noticed, Motivate Millions, and Make a Difference in a Noisy World. And he's enabled thousands of people to achieve amazing impact by championing the philosophy that partnerships and collaboration build value for everyone. He was selected by Fast Company as one of the 20 most influential people online. Ken's powerful call to action, the Impact Manifesto, You Make a Difference, whether you want to or not, was selected for publication by Seth Godin's brainchild, Change This, which places his manifesto in the company of manifestos written by Seth Godin, Hugh MacLeod, I hope I'm saying that right, Guy Kawasaki, Chris Anderson, J. Conrad Levinson, Tom Peters, Malcolm Gladwell, and Robert Scoble. Most recently, Ken has come out with a movie. So this guy's a movie producer. He's a best-selling author. He was an event producer, as well as many, many, many other things. The list is just too long to go through it. So we got to bring this man to the stage. Let's all put our hands together for Mr. Ken McArthur. What's up, Ken?
Hey, Fred, it's so great to see you. I love
see
seeing
you.
your smiling face again.
I know. It's like we've been strangers for the past year or something. What the heck is up with that?
And you aren't even being robbed at gunpoint.
Exactly. I get to see you in a place of mutual respect where we actually want to see each other. It's crazy.
I love
Ken,
to see
what is
all the
going
time.
on in your world?
Well, it's a busy life, you know. I'm lucky I get to do all the things that I want to do, or at least I get to do constantly things that I want to do. There are so many things in my life that I really would love to be able to do, and there's just not enough time to get them all in. Hence, putting off the amazing Fred Pacimo for 6 months on the broadcast. But I'm really excited to be here now.
You know, you put a hole in my heart, Ken. Right there. Right there. That's where it was, right through.
Well, I'm having a good time, but focus is one of the, you talk about having making money and having fun, and having focus is one of the key factors that you have to do if you want to complete anything. So I've been trying to complete the Impact Factor movie now for quite a while, and it requires focus. So I've been doing that, but now we're getting to the kind of the end stretch here. We're just about to start putting it out. I'm hoping maybe to have a private screening in the Philadelphia area coming up in a few months, and I'm excited about that and just ready to put it out there. Yeah,
so cool. So before we get into the Impact Factor movie, let's just talk about impact first, because but your thing has always been impact. So talk to us about impact. How did this get started? How did this kind of become your mantra, your catchphrase, and just what does it really mean to you, I guess?
I guess, impact for me started, the first time I ever learned about impact was when I was in high school. So long time ago, in a far distant world, there was this teenage boy that really didn't know know anything about anything, but he wrote music, used to play a guitar and make up original songs, and he'd sit around living rooms, and the local girls would be there, and I'd make them cry. But it wasn't the girls that actually taught me about impact. It was a guy. His name is Tom Boyd. He was the football hero. He was the leader of the class. He was on the student council. He was the guy that was destined to go off and change the world. He'd already been accepted into the Air Force Academy, and was on this route that was just straight up. And one night he just happened to be in one of those living rooms, and I sang my sad songs and made the girls cry. And I'll never forget, I walked out on the porch of that house after that, and he said to me, "You changed my life." And I thought, wow, I mean, this guy's the football hero. He's going into the Air Force. What's going to happen to him in his future? I don't think for a moment that I changed his life just by singing some song. But what if I did? What if I did? What kind of impact could that have? And at that moment, I thought, it only takes one life to make a life worthwhile. And if you can change one life, that's a pretty amazing accomplishment, because that ripples around. I mean, what if he was on a battlefield somewhere around the world leading troops into battle and made some kind of a decision that impacted those lives? And impact just goes on and on and on. So that was my first lesson in impact. But I've been around so long, I've had lots of lessons in impact. I was doing a series of live events all over the world that had some of the top marketers in it. And I would see people come to those events and their lives would be changed. They would meet somebody. They would make a connection. They would develop a relationship. They would learn some techniques, and it would change their life. And I suddenly realized that no matter how hard I told people, no matter how hard I put the emphasis on it, no matter how I yelled and screamed and over-exaggerated, there is no way that I could get anybody to realize the fact that we all have an impact. And that impact is huge. Just by existing, you impact thousands of people. And if we use the art, science, and technology that we have available to us to leverage that impact, we can literally impact millions of people. And the world needs that, because right now it's a noisy space. There's 7 billion people on the planet. We think that we don't make a difference because, how do you crash through all that noise and actually impact somebody? But the truth is that if you can just impact one person, small acts of kindness that make a huge, huge difference to that particular person, that impacts another one, another one, another one, and that impact just goes on forever, well beyond our life.
That's amazing. It's amazing. So do you think it's easier to impact people today with technology, or do you think it's harder?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think all real impact comes person to person. So we can with intention, we can impact somebody every single day. I mean, when I was researching for this movie, I was driving an Uber around the Badlands of Philadelphia, and I was meeting people every day. And you'd think you can't impact anybody as an Uber driver, right? Except for that young lady that was had probably a 2-year-old on her arm, and then was pregnant with another child, and she'd got hooked on oxycodone because of a C-section that she had with her first pregnancy, and her life had just gone downhill from there. And she just needed somebody to talk to for a day, just for an hour on an Uber ride as she was going to her rehab. And those kinds of impacts are impacts that are just the same now as they were in the caveman days, Yeah. But the downhill side of it is that just by saying negative things and broadcasting them out to millions of people and building up all of the differences that we have and polarizing people in ways that that impact thousands and thousands of people, that kind of impact can keep going. So just like you put up on the screen, I've been saying for a long, long time, it's not a good news message. It's an impactful message. We all make an impact, whether we want to or not. So it would be nice if we didn't make an impact. You could yell at Fred all you wanted to. You could tell him exactly what you thought. It wouldn't make any difference to Fred. You could kick the dog if you wanted to. It wouldn't make any difference. But the truth is that we'd like to think that when we do nothing, nothing happens. I hear that all the time in sales presentations. You know, they'll get the audience going, right, and they'll say, what happens if you do nothing? And the audience yells back, nothing. Well, nothing could be further from the truth, because when we do nothing, horrendous impact happens, you know? So it's just like a house. You've done a lot of work in real estate investing and stuff like that. If you neglect the house and you do nothing with a house, it slowly falls apart. That right. Same thing is true with the relationships that we have. It's true for the mother who does nothing with her child. And that kind of impact just goes from generation to generation. We see that in cycles of child abuse. We see that in teen suicide. We see that just travel through families, you know. A person who thinks their life is entirely worthless and decides to take it has no idea of the impact that they're having on their parents or the people that knew them, the friends, all of that impact is more than we can possibly imagine. That goes on for years and years.
Exactly. It's interesting looking at impact, because impact is so neutral, right? Like you said, it can result in something, you know, horrific or very negative, and it can also result in things that are very positive as well. Do you have any kind of, I guess, like tips or advice on how to impact people positively, or is it kind of too subjective to really realize what kind of impact you're having on somebody?
You know, a lot of what we experience in life is really self-based, and it's self-centered. The biggest thing that we can do if we really want to have an impact, I think, is to listen to people. So many times we don't listen to anybody. You know, I'm sitting here yakking away. I'm telling you what I think. And I haven't asked Fred, you know, what do you think about this stuff? You know, how have you been impacted in your life, and how has somebody come into your life and really made a difference? If we watch and we listen to what's actually going along, not what people are saying, you know, there are so many people out there that are trying to lead, and we're paying attention to what they're saying when sometimes we should be paying attention to what they actually do. And if we really want to have an impact in somebody's life, we should listen to them, because they can tell you better than anybody else what they need, how to have an impact. The easiest way that you can have an impact is to make something better in the world. You know, if you just make something better than it is right now, you've had a positive impact, right? Exactly. And that impact could be anything, but you have to listen to what that impact is. So what kind of impact do you want me to have on your life today, Fred?
Ken, I just want to have fun today. That's all I do on this show. It's about laughing. It's about having a good time and just chatting, man. You have such an interesting life story. And the funny part is, every time I ask you about your life story, you always give me a different chunk. And there's all these different pieces. Like you were a pet store owner, you were a cop, you were something to do with the military at some point somewhere. It's so fun to look at. But I got your book right here. So this, I think, is your first one, Impact. Tell us about this book, Ken. This looks like a super cool book.
Well, I wrote that book because of what I was experiencing at my events and how we all make a difference. And then I got to thinking about how can we leverage those kinds of things. And I still read that book. It's still sitting over there behind me somewhere. If I got out of the way, there's actually 3 copies over there
Nice.
of books that I've written. One's in Chinese, so I have never read that book.
That's awesome. Did you ever think about learning Chinese just to read that book?
Just to read that book, that would be an undertaking for sure. I would love to be able to read Chinese, and I think that somebody could actually do that if they wanted to put their mind to it.
Sure.
It's amazing what we can do if we have the time and put in the effort to do that. But I still read that book every so often, keep it close by, because it reminds me of the things that I should be doing. It reminds us that we all make an impact. In that book, I talked about a story about one man. I don't know if you ever heard the story of one man.
I don't think so. This sounds like a new story from you, Ken.
It's an old YouTube story in a way. There was a guy who was from the UK, and he went to Australia to live, and he was separated from his fiance, and he was feeling kind of lonely. And one night he went to a party, and somebody there gave him a hug to kind of cheer him up, and it made him feel a little bit better. And the next day he went down to the local mall, and he held up a sign that was on a piece of cardboard and said "free hugs." And everybody looked at him kind of weird, because it's kind of weird to see a guy, especially back then, holding up a sign that said "free hugs" on the sign. But eventually there was a little old lady that came up and gave him a hug, and then other people were joining in, and more people were joining in. Well, he could have just stopped there, and that would have been a good, feel-good kind of a thing. But the next day he decided to go back to the mall, and then he went back to the mall, and then he went back to the mall. So many times we just stop doing something that might be doing us good, or a project maybe that we're working on. But if you actually persist in doing something over a period of time, you'll be amazed at the impact. So he kept going, and one day there was a guy who worked in another one of the stores. He was a struggling musician, and he wanted to make it big with his rock band. And he saw this guy out here giving free hugs, and he thought it was kind of cool. And he pulled out a video camera, and he did a video of it. And then he went away. He went away to the United States, to America, to seek his fortune as a rock star. So when time went on, the guy was feeling lonely in Australia, and he just happened to write a note, an email to his friend in America, and he wrote. He got together. The guy in America got together with his band, and they put music to the videos that he had done of him giving out the free hugs. And that music video he posted that day on YouTube, and it caught on like crazy. It did millions and millions and millions of views. Wow. And over time, that video has had more impact than you can possibly imagine. It actually caused things like governments all over the world to do amazing things. The country of France did a free hugs day because they wanted to raise awareness that you could actually go up and hug somebody who had AIDS, And so millions and millions and millions of people came out of that, out of just somebody going up, holding up a sign, and giving out free hugs.
That's crazy.
Yeah. There's still going on to this day. There's free hug movements all over the world.
It's interesting because if we roll it back to impact, which is basically what we've been talking about, you see how like the simplest, smallest thing just propagates and grows and grows and grows geometrically into something that can become huge. I remember, I guess, I don't know, it was probably 10 years ago. I was watching the news. I never watched the news, by the way. I don't know why, but for some reason I was watching the news. And for some reason on the news, it was not anything negative. It was not murders or suicides of that week or anything like that. A
miracle.
Yeah, it was this weird moment, which I guess I was like destined to have for some reason. And there was a guy in Center City, Philadelphia, who went downtown and sat in the train stations or actually, I don't even know if he was from Philadelphia, but he was from somewhere. And he set up a game of Connect 4, and he just played free games with people in there. And the news finally like caught up to him, and there like, dude, what are you doing giving away these free games? He's like, I just like connecting with people. And it was interesting to see how something like so small as that became this whole news broadcast for, whatever, a 20-minute segment or whatever the heck it was, of just this guy playing free games with people in the city. And he just did it every day for like 6 months, and just seeing the impact of that. And I wonder where that went. You know what I mean? Looking at the story that you just told, it's interesting to look at it from an impact perspective and see where could that go? What could that lead to? And what does it actually create because of that?
Well, that's how my live events got started. I actually went to just a lunch with a couple of guys that were working in internet marketing in the area. And I thought, boy, this is pretty neat. We got to get together and we talked about things that our neighbors really don't know anything about. Maybe I should see who else wants to come to lunch. And I sent out a little email to my list. And a guy all the way from Seattle said, I want to come to go to lunch with you. I said, okay, well, if Frank Sousa is going to come all the way from Spokane. It was Spokane, Washington. I always say it wrong. I don't know why. Spokane, Washington, and fly in just to have lunch with me. We should get together the night before and have a networking dinner, and then maybe we can mastermind all day long, and then get up and have a breakfast before he goes off back to Spokane. And we did that, and I invited a bunch of people. About 30 people showed up, including Sterling Valentine, the first time I ever met Sterling Valentine. Now, out of that little thing, that morning for breakfast, we sat down at a table and we discussed, hey, we'd like to keep doing some things. How can I help you? And Sterling and I started creating the process that would result in him doing $100,000 in sales over a 30-day period, because I wanted to teach people how to create information products, and he wanted to create one. So he made over $100,000 in 30 days and built a mailing list of 10,000 people in that period of time. Frank Sousa came back to my next event. Eventually, we had another event. He met Mike Koenigs, and together on the back of a napkin, they actually scratched out a little business plan for Traffic Geyser, which did multiple millions of dollars over the coming years. I once had a 90-minute segment at one of my events where I called Frank up on the stage and I said, tell us how this has impacted your life. And he went on and on about how much a difference that had made in his life. And then I said, now, has anybody else been impacted by Frank? And we called up somebody else, and he went on and on and on about the support and stuff that Frank had given to him because he met him at this event. And then it went on and on and on. And by the end of the 90 minutes, almost everybody in that audience was on the stage talking about how one person had impacted another. There were people that were literally alive on that stage that would not have been alive if Frank hadn't decided to go across the country just to have lunch with me. Now, I'm not saying that works in every case, but that's the power of showing up. That's the power of doing something. And when you don't take the time to meet with somebody, there could be somebody listening to this right now, and something that you or I say could resonate with them, and it could impact their life, and that impact can just go on for years and years and years.
That's so interesting. I always see now, like with the amount of content I'm putting out, people reach out to me a lot, and they're like, hey, I love what you're putting out. And I didn't even know that they were watching in the first place. I'm like, wow, this is, there's something happening just by consistently opening your mouth, by consistently using your voice and your words, and your message. I think that we can impact so many people, like you say. And I love your quote. We all make an impact whether we want to or not. I think it hits the nail right on the head and drives it all home. So Ken, we have your crescendo now, your masterpiece, everything coming all together closer to, Took you what, 45 years before you actually did put this movie together?
Depending on where you want to say the start of that journey was.
There you go, something like that. So Ken, you got to tell us about this process. So you basically, reached up, grabbed the moon and pulled it down and said, you know what, I'm going to do something bigger than anything I've done before. You've hosted these giant events. You've met with all these people all across the world, had all kinds of impact. And then you're like, you know what? I want to make a movie. What kind of, I guess, was the starting point for you saying, I want to go out and make this movie and getting it going?
I guess it's exploring all the different ways that we can use technology and everything else. I've always been a movie fan. I love it because it can grab you on an emotional level. It can grab you on a visual level. It can grab you on a sound level. So it puts all of those different parts of media, all the things that I've been building. I mean, I've been a songwriter. I've got a master's degree in music, and I've led orchestras and all kinds of things like that, just to get music out there. And that's just sound, but you can add visuals to that. You can add a story to that. And a movie is a powerful thing. So I started working on that. It's a long, long process. I worked with a 3-time Academy Award-winning screenwriter and producer to kind of help me mold the script that I was writing for it. I brought together over 3,000 filmmakers in the Philadelphia area into a group so that I could learn more about filmmaking and get to know them and build relationships that would make it possible for me to make the film. I put together a social media team that has almost 500 people in it right now, ready to publicize the movie. I started building out with no budget, just a beat up laptop and a dream, as Sterling Valentine would have said at the start of his campaign, trying to go out there and make a bigger impact to get this message out, because I think it's that important of a message. So the story actually tells a story. It was inspired on somebody that I met at one of my events. He had started helping a girl that lived in his neighborhood who was being extorted by a judge, and it was a powerful story that he told. And I didn't try to write his story, but it inspired me to write a story that incorporated some of those elements. So the Impact Factor movie is all about how people within a 5-mile radius of Philadelphia City Hall live and work together. Now, there's the power brokers of City Hall, and there's some of the most drug-infested areas of the country within that 5-mile radius. And this movie shows how small actions really make a huge difference and how we can work together to make things better. So that's kind of the impetus for the movie.
I love it. So making a movie, putting a movie together, right? I've written a couple of books. You've written a couple of books. There's a level of difficulty to writing a book. Making a movie, is it as hard as people say? Is it easier? Is it harder? Is it? Tell us about the process here.
Well, there's good news and there's bad news. So the good news is anybody who wants to make a movie these days can make a movie, right?
Well, that's good news.
And the bad news is that it's so much more difficult than you ever imagined it could be to make a movie once you get into it, because there are so many things that you have to do. I just mentioned all the different facets of that. There's storytelling, there's technical stuff, there's visuals, how do we make it look good? How do we make it sound good? Is there music involved in it? We have a wonderful original music score for the film that was written by Michael Ingesser, who is an award-winning film composer. And he put in over a year of his life, not full-time, but I would think a good full-time job.
Sure.
Just composing all of those music cues. There are literally hundreds of music cues in the movie. I put in some original songs that I wrote decades ago, and those things were reworked,
and they're so good.
And so we pulled together actors. We had literally thousands of people who wanted to be in the film. One of the few people that got in the film was Fred Pasimo, but
that's me.
But there were literally thousands of people that wanted to be in the film, and we were lucky enough to have some really great actors that are in the film. I'm really excited about that. Our cinematographer, a young man that has all kinds of amazing expertise, and we got to do a really quick production all before COVID hit.
Yeah, that too. It was interesting for me walking into this process. You know, I've always been a big theater goer. I've always been a huge movie buff my whole life. And walking into the process to actually be part of a feature-length film and to see kind of behind the scenes how it all works and help you scout out locations, I think it was exactly what you say. It was amazingly fun and really cool to do, and so much more work than I ever anticipated. I'm like, wow, this is overwhelming to the nth degree, and I just give you total kudos, like to dig through it and make your way out of it. Basically, whatever it is, a year and a half
later, however long you were, producing this whole thing, it's amazing. It's super cool.
Yeah, we had to put together a Kickstarter campaign to raise the initial funds for it. And then there's the hidden secret of Kickstarter, which is that you don't get all that money. So
right.
We raised over $26,000, and I think we managed to pull in about $16,000, which is not enough money to actually do a movie. Everybody told me it was impossible. So so I went ahead and did it anyway. And so now we're trying to raise a little bit of money right now to try and make sure that we can get this out to festivals and to distributors and do all the deliverable stuff that we have to do and raise awareness for it. So we've got a little Indiegogo campaign that's going on right now, so people can actually get early access to the movie. They can may come join us for that theater pre-screening that we're doing in a few months here. And if people are interested in checking that out, they can just go to impactfactormovie.com/perks, and we will definitely hook them up. And they can help make sure that this movie gets out to the people that it needs to get out to, because if you make a movie and nobody sees it, it's something like that tree falling in the forest or something like that. We don't want that to happen.
It's funny because my first book, I always tell this story. I wrote my first book when I was 21. There it is. And I've given away more copies of this than I've sold at this point.
Yeah.
But it's also not nearly as daunting of a task as making a movie, and not nearly as expensive as making a movie can be. So, if you write a book and not that many people see it or read it, it's not as big of a deal, but we got to get this movie out there. We got to let people know about it, especially because I'm in it.
That's right.
Why would you not want to see a movie with me in it? It's so funny.
The start of your film career here, Fred.
I got an email the other day from some guy, Martin Scorsese, something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it, but he looks like some fraud or something. Sending me something.
Well, check with Steven Spielberg and see if he's up to snuff.
I'll give him a call and see what he thinks about this guy. I don't know, some kid somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah,
you did a great job in the movie. You really did. You nailed that scene, and it was an important one. So I was really thankful for that.
It was interesting trying to explain to people the scene. Like when people ask me, like, "Well, what'd you do in your scene?" I'm like, "Well, it kind of is sort of important, and it kind of is like the hinge pin of the entire movie in there. But it's also very hard to explain without telling you the entire movie of there." And it's
The
like,
funny here's one of the interesting trivia for you, Fred. You're in the only scene that's in the movie twice.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're in the movie twice, slightly different each time, but
Right.
yeah.
We changed the lighting, changed my hair. I was behind the scenes quite a bit though, so that
Yeah, you were great behind the scenes. We had a lot of volunteers that helped out on set, and that was a fun process for people that wanted to learn about filmmaking and to get started. You know, we had over 60 actors in this film. Can you believe that? Over 30 locations.
What did you film it in? 28 days or something like that of filming?
It was supposed to be a 16-day shoot, and we did it in 13.
Wow. Holy.
So that's pretty amazing.
So what were some of your biggest takeaways from going through this whole process of making a movie?
You know, it brought back to me a little bit of the time when I was preparing to get my master's degree, which was the last huge task that I took on, which was like an extended thing that you had to work on really hard. And I had a thesis that I had to do with a big concert, and then I had to do a musical analysis of the 2 requiems, and it was like modal chants and all kinds of stuff that I had to know about, all this esoteric stuff, and I never knew there was that much detail in anything, you know.
Right.
And it kind of opened up my world a little bit, because by the end of that process, digging that deep, I knew more about requiems than the person who headed the entire department at the college that I was at, you know, because of narrow focus. You know, if I just focused in on one thing, you can learn more about that one thing than almost anybody on the planet. Well, the same thing is true of movie making and every element of movie making. So when you take on a big project like this, it's really easy to get overwhelmed. I mean, I feel a little bit overwhelmed right now, just because there's so many things that have to be done in the next 3 months that it's hard for me to imagine that they can all get done. But I'm a big fan of one step at a time. You know, you just focus on the things that you can do right now. I'm waiting on some people. A lot of people spend all of their life waiting. They're waiting for somebody to finish something, and they don't get it done, or they say they can't come through. I've had that happen a couple of times here in just the last few days, of things that I was kind of counting on, you know, that I wasn't going to have to do myself. And they said, you know, I really can't do it. I don't have enough time. And I'm thinking, well, I have lots of time. No, I wasn't thinking that. So sometimes it's easy to get overwhelmed, right?
Sure.
But if you focus on doing the things that you can do right now, and sometimes people come through. So just yesterday, somebody else came through, and after a long time, and said, hey, I may be able to help you with this. So you never know. Just keep doing the things that you need to do. If you break down any huge task into small little elements, and say, well, you know, what's it going to take to accomplish this thing? And then I also encourage people to do reusable modules. You know, so there are a lot of things that are reused in this movie. If you go all the way back to writing the Impact Manifesto, which was basically where I started to say you make a difference whether you want to or not, then that theme has gone through books. It's gone from the manifesto to books. It's gone into the movie, and you can utilize modules of things that you build. So if you decide that you're gonna write that you're gonna do a movie, and you decide later that you don't want to complete the movie, it's just not worth it to you, you can take some of the elements from that movie and you can turn it into courses, or you can turn it into whatever. One of the joys of this movie is realizing that it's not about the end game. It's not about the fact that I'm going to do this tremendous movie. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to impact millions of people. It's that I know that it impacted the people that I built it with all the way along the path.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't know that, I could keel over dead tomorrow, and you don't know what's going to happen, right? Every day is a gift. And if you're doing things, I always encourage people to answer two questions. The first question is, what do you like to do when you get up in the morning? And the second question is, when you get to the end of your life, what will make you feel like you lived, you loved, and you made a difference? Because I feel if you get up every day and you do the things that you really want to be doing, and you get to the end of your life and you feel like you lived, loved, and made a difference, that's a pretty good life. So every day I got up and I worked on some aspect of the movie that really made me excited. And then the next day I'd work on another aspect of the movie. And then, just keep going and keep going. And along the way, it impacts all of the people that you touch along the way. So I think every actor that was in the movie, that's 60 people right there. I think they were all impacted in some way by being a part of that movie, whether they decide to pursue acting as a career or it was just a fun experience, right? They had a good time, right?
Yeah, who knows?
I hope it impacted your life.
What would you say was your favorite part of working on this movie? Like, what was it? The filming of it, the producing, the writing it? What was your favorite?
Yeah.
The above.
Yeah, all of the above. I mean, I think what I really like to do, and I've done it in all kinds of different areas, is I like to make something out of nothing. So one day you wake up, you don't necessarily have any money, you don't have any experience, you don't have any time, you don't have anything, and you just say, I'd like to build this. One day it was a pet store. I wanted to build a pet store, and I managed to build and rehab a pet store. One day it was a recording studio, and I wanted to build my own recording studio because I wanted to be able to record my own music. That's a bad idea, by the way, because if you build a recording studio, you will never have time to record your own music. That's just for all you folks that wanted to build a recording studio. So, or if you want to build a movie, whatever you want to build, that's the fun part. Make something out of nothing, because if you can take nothing and make the world a better place, that's a pretty good life.
Absolutely. So let's look at the flip side now. What would you say let's put it this way. What would you say was the most difficult part of making the movie that you didn't think was going to be as difficult as it was?
I was pretty sure it was going to be hard, Fred. So let's just take that part of the question out. I knew going in that this was pretty much impossible. And probably the most difficult part of this is to keep the faith along the way that all of the people that are telling you that you can't do it, or you can't do it for this, or you're not prepared, or you're not talented, or this really stinks, all of those people line up. Because we love to be critics, especially if you ask somebody about your book, or there are people who will say, "Oh, your book's fantastic," but there are people that will say, "Well, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Oh, look at the grammar in this sentence," and go on and just tear you to shreds. Well, along the way, especially if you're trying to do something in a budget that's as impossible as this one was, there are people telling you every single day that you can't do this, that this isn't commercial, that your story doesn't work, that you'll never find a film crew, you'll never be able to get a cinematographer, you'll never be able to get a composer, you'll never be able to get a distributor, you'll never be able to. It just goes on and on and on and on. So thank God for people who have support in their family and friends and people that lift them up and say, hey, you can do this, because if you didn't have that, it would be really, really, really tough to get anything done. And, things are impossible until somebody does them.
Exactly. I always think back to the 4-minute mile, when I think it was Roger Bannister ran the first 4-minute mile. And then the end of that year, there was 15 other people that did it as well.
Yeah. Because we build up these mental barriers and we think it's not possible. Exactly. And now we know it's possible. I mean, you can look out there in the marketplace and see thousands and thousands of films. Well, people have created those thousands and thousands of films, and they weren't all rich, and they weren't all Spielberg or that Scorsese guy. So
yeah, whoever he is, I don't know about him. Yeah. So let's talk to real quick the aspiring movie creator, all the people out there that want to make a movie. What advice would you give to them? What kind of tips or tricks or insider knowledge would you give to somebody who wants to do what you did?
Well, there's always the Larry Steinhaus advice, which is just go make your movie. and it is very helpful to have somebody on your team that that basically keeps saying that over and over and over in your head until you get so annoyed by it that you actually do it just to get them to shut up. But I think, practically speaking, most people, when they're just told go out and do something, they don't know what to do. And the way that you learn how to do things is, we have the internet now, which is just amazing. If you want to learn about cinematography, you can do it. If you want to learn about film distribution, you can do it. You don't have to pay a cent if you don't want to. You can go down to the library and get on YouTube at the library and just watch video after video. Now, does this make it easy? Does it make you a real expert? No, absolutely not. The other half of that is you have to do it. So when I started thinking about this project, I pulled together a group of filmmakers here locally, and I wrote a script based on that Impact Manifesto. And we did what turned out to be like a 3-minute almost info commercial for creating impact. But what it did was it proved, hey, you can get through this process once. And I knew a heck of a lot more by the end of that process of what it took to get something on film. And then I could say, look, you got 3 minutes on tape here, and it doesn't look too bad. It doesn't sound too bad. You actually have 3 minutes. Now all you have to do is multiply that times 30 times, and you got a movie.
There you go.
So there you go. Yeah. It's just breaking those things down and making things happen. You can learn everything that you want to learn. There are books. I love books. So the cheapest way that you can find out anything is to get a book. If you want to know everything I knew up to that point that I wrote that book, get that book. If you want to know the next 10 years, you can probably get the next book. And if you want to know everything after I wrote that book, you can watch the movie.
There you go.
Coming out a documentary after that, hopefully. So we'll see.
Nice. So talk to us about the future of this movie. So now we got to do some distribution. We got to get you on Netflix. We'll get you into Hollywood. You'll be famous, and you'll be living in the Playboy Mansion after this, right?
Probably not. Probably not. So it's a good idea, Fred, to have reality in mind when you do these projects and have realistic expectations.
Sure.
So many young people will go into a big project like this, and they will think that that they'll risk everything in their life to create this thing. Now, luckily for some young people, they don't have much and they don't lose much, and they're pretty much in the same spot that they started at when they get done. But if you ramp up all of your credit cards and you never pay them back, there's a price to pay for that in terms
Sure.
of the toll on yourself, your finances, and your relationships too. If you don't get that stuff done, so you need to have realistic expectations about what you're doing. Nobody should expect that they're going to go out and win the Academy Award on their first film, or that they should get into Sundance. But here's the truth. By the time this actually screens in a theater, I'll be 71 years old. So if I can do it at 71, you can do it over a lifetime. That's for sure. So.
I love it. So you're thinking like a fall launch, late summer launch kind of a thing for this, or are you not sure yet?
Well, we have
details, Ken.
Yeah, we have a number of people that that are really excited about the movie, and we're looking at distribution options and We have a producer's rep that would love to work with us. All of these things, the finishing things require funding because, you've got to be able to deliver materials to all of these services and stuff like that. We're pretty well assured that we will get on things like Apple, Tubi, those kinds of platforms. There are lots and lots of platforms all over the world now. We're less likely to get into something like Sundance or which is, like hitting the lottery, especially if you don't have name actors in your film. You're not likely to hit those kind of benchmarks, but it will be widely available to anybody that wants to watch it on major platforms. So I'm pretty confident about that. We'll also be able to do some theater stuff. So I'm planning the private showing for people that are here in the Philadelphia area, but we've already received offers from around the country to host a showing in other locations. So we'd love to have some theatrical stuff because there's nothing like watching a movie in a movie theater. But
yeah,
my big push is to get most Kickstarter campaigns come in with estimates of when they're going to get done, and they never meet those anticipations, often by years. I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to actually hit our estimated delivery dates for all the perks of people that supported the film. So I'm going to make sure that happens, and so that's coming up really, really soon. And nice. we will make that happen, at least for the people who are in the who support the movie, who actually go and get one of those perks at impactfactormovie.com/perks. And that will be coming up really, really quick. That's the big push for me now. So people who do that can have early access to the movie, even before it's reached its final state. And then when the full movie comes out, we're in the process of doing some final things to it now, the final color grading, the final sound design, the final credits, to get all of that stuff, make sure Fred's name is in there. And so all of that stuff is wrapping up right now over the next 2 to 3 months. And then we'll start submitting to festivals now. We will, depending on how many festivals or where we get accepted, we'll be able to go around a little bit, hopefully, and to visit some of those places. Of course, it costs money to enter festivals, so sure. we've got to be able to do that. But definitely, we want to take a shot at a festival run. At the same time that we're getting festivals, we've got a producer's agent that's going to be working on distribution deals, and we'll be evaluating all those deals for all of the other platforms that we have, and for distributing it to other countries and all kinds of things. So
cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So pretty much this is going to be pretty much a worldwide movie, right? Almost anywhere you can.
Oh yeah, it'll be available anywhere.
Nice. Are you having it translated into other languages as well?
Well, we're doing all the deliverables, and that's another expense.
Right.
So
I'm just trying to add more onto your plate, Ken.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me of all this stuff that I have to do. There's all the artworks, there's the trailers, there's all the different formats. When you produce a movie, they want a mix, and if you put it in a theater, they want like a 5:1 mix, which is all the surround sound and stuff like that. That has to be done separately. And then when you go into other countries, they want things like all of the tracks separated out onto different things so that they can do dubs or they can do captioning. Of course, we have to do captioning anyway, but captioning in multiple languages. So all of the things that you would normally see in a movie that you would expect to be in English need to be translated into that language. So one of these days, who knows, you could hear yourself spouting back Chinese, and you won't even have to line
there you go. I can tell people that I know Chinese and they can watch it. Perfect. You're just setting me up for success here, Ken. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm trying.
So we're hitting close to an hour here, but I want to kind of wrap you up here with this one question. How would you say that you feel now that the the bulk of the work for the most part is kind of coming to a close, it's concluding, and you're starting to see this vision come to fruition? How does that make you feel?
Every day that I get up is a good day. Every day that I'm alive. I've had a couple of experiences now at this point in my life when I wasn't sure that I was going to make it through the next 3 months, and nobody really knows. A lot of young and healthy people are out there right now, or aren't out there right now, that woke up 3 months ago thinking everything was going to be hunky-dory. And so every day I get up is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to have more impact. And I think we all want to, have a significant life, have a life that matters. I'm really, really lucky because I've already figured out that if I die today, that my life made a difference in some way to somebody. I would have been satisfied that those years and years and years ago, if Tom Boyd had had a better life because I had said something to him that made his life better. Interestingly enough, I ran into him again over Facebook. I haven't asked him how much it's changed his life, but he did back the movie. So
nice. There you go. I love that.
Yeah, and we were able to have a relationship, probably more of a relationship than we had in high school. So, that's how things can come around. But over the years, I've seen the tremendous impact that anybody can have, and we can all do that every single day. We can always give an encouraging word. So,
love it. I love that so much, Ken. That is absolutely amazing. It's interesting how everything just circles back to that impact again, and it's something that seems so small. Like I said, when I explain to people my scene, they're like, "I don't get it. Why why did you mess everything up, Fred?" And I'm like,
well, you have to see the rest of the movie to understand how the whole movie falls upon this one scene. And it just opens it up. And they're like, I'm confused. I'm like, all right, go see the movie.
That's right. Go see the movie.
It's really cool. I'm excited to know
somebody, to actually have a friend who made a movie, and I can share that with people, to actually be a part of this project and this movie. And I was able to open up one of my homes to you and be in the movie. So that was super fun. So what's next for you, Ken? What's your next big thing after all of this? Just sit back and watch it all?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Do what Thanos did?
I'm not seeing the end of this yet, Fred. What I see that we finish up the movie and we get things out to the backers, and then we try and get it out to the world, and that's a pretty big project in itself. I do have some other film projects that I really want to get on to too. I want to build a documentary for this and kind of show some of the principles that I've been teaching all these different years, to show how you can strategically leverage impact to get your impact even greater. So I hope to be able to wrap up that documentary. That will wrap up my 3-film project. So I had the 3 movies. I had the short film designed to benefit over 100 nonprofit organizations. That's out there and in the can. This one I'm wrapping up now, and the documentary will be next, I would imagine. So,
and that will be quick because you already did this one.
I've been doing a lot of work on that for a lot of years, so I've got a lot of stuff sitting around, and we've been filming for it for a while now. So
nice. There you go. So cool. Ken, I love it. You are the best. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. I really enjoy it. I'm excited about your future. I'm sorry that I won't be around to see it all, but I know that you'll have an amazing impact.
I love it. Ken, you are absolutely amazing. What is your words of wisdom, your advice, or just the last things that you want to say to our audience today before we part ways?
Take time, listen, enjoy life. Take a breath. Try to make something better every single day. and consider that we all make a difference whether you want to or not. And you can have an impact every single day. It's as easy as giving somebody a kind word.
Perfect. Ken McArthur, you are the man. Thank you so much for being here. For everybody who's still hanging out with us, we will see you again very, very soon. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks so much.